This is a summary of Part 2, Piping Components, in which I will talk about pipes, about fittings and flange. As for valves, we will talk about manual valves and control valves, about the structure and operating principles within a piping and instrument system. Okay, next I will talk about instruments, which are measuring devices, in which I will distinguish between switch and transmitter. This is a summary of Part 2, Piping Components, and I will talk about pipe. So in the pipe section, I will talk about the manufacturing methods. It can be a seamless pipe, a welded pipe, or a spiral pipe. There are different types of pipe connections. I am talking about the dimension and the material description. In the material description, I'll tell you what information is included in the description. It must have component type. What is size, manufacturing method, and preparation? What is important? We must have standards for dimension for size. Material standards. I will talk specifically in this section. I have some examples here to help you understand what it is. What do the parameters in this description mean? For example, if you consider this is a pipe of 8 inch, schedule is 40. Then I will have bevel end at the pipe end. And what is here 1/2 inch? Schedule is STD, but I only have plain end. Why do we have plan end? What are bevel end and plan end, and why do we have bevel but not plan end? This is the summary of Part 2, piping components, and I talk about fitting. So in this fitting section, I will talk about elbow. I'm talking about T and OLED. I'm talking about reducer caps and inserted components. So in each type of fitting like that, I will talk about its types. For example, this T. So what are the types, what are the end connections, and what is the description for fitting? What information will it include in the description, and what does this information mean? I have given these examples for you. These examples and the descriptions will explain specifically what each component means. For a fitting, this is a summary of Part 2, Piping Components, and I will talk about flange. So here is the information. I will talk about the flange. What kind? And what about the structure of the connecting surface? About its rating, about the accompanying materials, what are its accessories including bolt, nut, and gasket. What types of gasket will this have in the description for the flange? Here it will include what information in that description, and what will each of these information mean. I will have examples on the description for the flanges. So here I will analyze for you to understand clearly that each piece of information like this will show. What would that mean for a flange? About the dimension standards and material standards, about gasket and bolt, nut and its structure. Then what information is in the description? What should you pay attention to for bolt and nut? This is the summary of Part 2, Piping Components, and I will talk about valves. In the valve section, first I will talk about manual valves. Manual valve is that we often see most. What is the valve type? Is it wafer type or lug type or flange type? I will differentiate between pressure relief and pressure safety. About control valves, I will specifically tell you about one type of valves. Pneumatic control, it is very popular. How is the valve that controls it located in a piping system? I will talk about the structure of a pneumatic control valve. Here I will have an example of a piping and instrument system, where we should install automatic valves and the reason why. How does it work? This is the summary of Part 2, Piping Components, and in this part I will talk about instruments. So in this instrument section, I will distinguish for you what a switch is and what a transmitter is. I will have a small example of a piping and instrument system. So let's see what role these instruments play in this system. Along with the automatic valve and mechanical devices,